What's up guys, Zach Castigoon back with another video, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the top 9 entries from our Grimdark Horus Heresy challenge that we ran just a little bit ago. So first off, I'd like to thank everyone that entered into the challenge. We had hundreds of entries, and basically how this went down is after the competition was over, I narrowed it down to my top 9 entries, and then we had 2 judges, one being the legendary Colonel from Instagram and also the highly decorated bloodasmedium, to come in and help me score the top 9 entries. So I have all their scores here, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually go ahead and narrow the field down a little bit more. So we're just going to take the scores that we have from Colonel and bloodasmedium and just get rid of the bottom 4 entries, and so that way I'll be going through the top 5 in this video and giving you my scores and some feedback and criticism on the entries. So let me just give you the breakdown of the judging criteria. So we had 4 categories, one being technical skills. Now this is based off basic painting skills and kit bashing skills, model building skills, modeling, that sort of thing. Just basic entry-level modeling skills. And that category is going to be a 1 to 20 point category. The next one is going to be the Grimdark painting style. Now this is just going to be based off how well your miniature represents a character derived from a dark and dystopian, war-ravaged world. We'll be looking for things like modeling, distressing, weathering, chipping, that kind of stuff, and that's going to be a 1 to 45 point category. The next category is going to be basing, and that's going to be a 25 point category. So again, we're looking for a basing scheme that depicts a dark and dystopian environment, and also how well your basing influences any type of weathering onto your miniature. And then the final category is just going to be photography. Now the way we're doing these competitions, pretty much entry is just through photographs, so the image needs to be clear, needs to be of high quality. So that's going to be a 10 point category. So let's get right into it. Let's see who makes it to the top 5 first, and then I will go through those final top 5, give you my scores, and we'll add all the scores together and we'll see who comes out the victor. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and trim this down to the top 5. So we're just going to get rid of the bottom 4 here, and this is just based off the scoring from Colonel and bloodasmedium. So after the scores are tallied, the lowest scoring entry out of the top 9 is going to be Diardrin's Alpha Legion model. And then the second lowest scoring entry is Maverick's Paint with his Grimdark entry. And then after that we have Knights of Wrath. It's the third lowest entry. And then finally, the fourth lowest entry was Francois. So those are the 4 we're going to be getting rid of, and then that will just leave us the top 5, and then I will get to go over those and give you my scoring for those, and then we'll see who comes up the winner. Alright, so to start it out, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at 40k blowouts entry first. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll give you Colonel and bloodasmedium score, and then I'll score this as I'm looking at it, and we'll see what we come up with. So bloodasmedium gave this a 17 on tech, gave it a 45 on the Grimdark painting style, gave it a 23 on basing, and a 10 on the photo. He said one of the best photos taken. He seems to really like the blue backdrop. Okay, so now let's get Colonel scores on this. So we have an 18 on tech, a 44 on the Grimdark painting style, a a 24 on the basing, and a 6 on the photography. And he says, great scene, only 2 minor changes to make it excellent. He says there's more dust on his shoe than the ground. Okay, and then a single bolt casing coming out of the gun would have connected the Mini to the base 100%. And he also says that the weathering obscures the pre-primer damage details. Okay, so let's take a look. So first we'll take a look at the technical details here. So looking at it, not zoomed in or anything, everything looks pretty solid technically. Looks like a standard Marine. I don't really see too much alteration into the pose or anything like that. Now what I do notice right away is there's some brush hairs left over on the miniature, and also see some fuzz. It looks like Q-tip fuzz on the knee here. One other thing that catches my eye right away, because here's the focal area of the miniature here. So the focal area is around, you know, the head and the shoulders and the top of the backpack. That's where my eye is immediately drawn to here. And this could go into the Grimdark painting style or just the technical, probably more so technical. But this big wash, the big wash line around this detail on the top of the head is very distracting. Like I said, this is the focal area of the miniature, and having just that big thick line of wash around that is a little bit distracting. I would want to make sure that was tightened up and just kind of snug around that little bit of detail. So technically well done. I definitely like the pre-damage. So the pre-weathering is done before the painting of the model. So he went in and like kind of did some damage to the shoulder pads and stuff like that. I think that's well done. I don't think the weathering obscures it very much. Maybe in some areas, but where it matters, like on these shoulder pads, maybe a little bit on the backpack. I see some on the knee pad here. It's well done. I can see it, and it's not overdone. You know, so it's really easy to kind of overdo pre-weathering and pre-textures. It's something you do want to include most of the time when you're doing the Grimdark style, but it's really easy to kind of overdo it and really kind of mess your miniature up. So I think that's really well done. So what I will score the technical on this is out of 20, I'm going to give it, I'll give it a 17. And that's just going to be three little areas of concern for me, which is the leftover brush hair, the fuzzies from the Q-tip, and then kind of that real thick wash around that upper detail there. All right, so as far as the Grimdark style painting goes, I mean, it really doesn't get much grim than this. This is really well done. I really like the color palette on this, very muted color palette. The skin tone looks really good. It could be a little bit more deep in the recesses on the face, maybe a little bit darker. I like how dark it is around the eyes. I think that's a natural shadow happening. But the skin tone's really good. I do like the coloration of the weathering. Now, I'm not really sure if that's rust or if that's just like a dust effect or something. But you know, typically if we have rust, it's associated with some sort of small texture, and that is really hard to achieve on such a small miniature. But you know, there's certain products that we can use. Like I think the Dirty Down Rust is really good for creating, you know, like a rust effect, because it not only has the correct colorations and you can get a very wide variation of rust tones out of that product, but it also is thick enough, and it's like almost like a gel when you use it. But once it starts to dry, it creates a little texture, and you can really use that to push the narrative for rust. You know, so I would like to see some more texture associated with the rust, if that is rust. So that's the problem with not having the rust texture, is is it rust or is it just like a collection of dust, you know, something like that. Other than that, I see like a dark brown wash, or perhaps a streaking grime, or just a brown wash in general. The modeling over the insignia here is really well done. Modeling over the white's well done. The chipping on the gun's pretty good. Yeah, I mean it's pretty good. This here is particularly well done. I like everything that's going on that boot. It's not too much, but there is definitely a lot going on there. But it looks really good. It looks real well done there. Now the grenade looks kind of chunky. Kind of hard to tell what's going on with the grenade. But overall, Grimdark style, very well done. I'm going to give this a 43. 43 for the Grimdark style, just because I'm not 100% sure if that's rust or just a dust pigment. So well done. So let's move to basing. Now the basing here, now I saw this, the work in progress of this, where the base was just kind of bare, no paint or anything, and it had a lot going on. The base had a lot of detail, there's a lot going on, and there was a lot of different elements to it. Now, once we've applied the paint and the pigment powders to this base, we've obscured most of the information on this base. So there are some large forms that are stones or rocks or something like that, but it's really hard to differentiate those forms from the rest of the base, just because it looks like it was just heavily hit with just like a pigment powder of some sort. Love the bullets, casings, the rebarb's well done. I agree with Colonel that like a bullet casing coming out of the gun would have been a nice touch, but the main issue on the base for me is the lack of definition, and that's really easy to do with pigment powders, because pigment powders can obscure detail, and we want to make sure that you know, the detail remains on the base, you know, because like I said, I think this base was custom built. And so we want to make sure that we don't just haphazardly rush the base to get it done. The base is, in my opinion, just as important as the rest of the miniature. So for basing, I'm going to give this 16. 16. I don't like how the painting of the base was handled. I would really like to see more different factors on the base. It's all just kind of one color, and I see different forms on there that could be stone, rocks, gravel, and opportunities for dust and stuff like that, you know. So I'm gonna give that a 16. As far as photo goes, I'm not a big fan of the blue background. We have a little bit of issue here with the depth of field, so we got some stuff out of focus. Photograph, it's fairly well done. I'm going to give it a 6. Not a fan of the blue background and a little bit of stuff out of focus. All right, so let's add all that up and see what score we have for Mr. 40K Blowout here. So 269. 269 for 40K Blowout. Total score 269. Okay, so next up we're going to be taking a look at Grimdark Gravis Guy's Contemptor. And I'll go ahead and give you Blood as Medium scores first. And so for technical skills, he gave this a 20. For the Grimdark painting style, gave it a 45. And then basing was a 21, and the photography was a 10. So the basing came up a little bit short for him. So Colonel scored this a 15 for technical skills. Gave it a 40 for Grimdark painting skills. A 15 on the basing. And 8 points for the photography. Alright, so Let's take a look here and see what scores I come up with. So as far as technical skills go, everything looks really good to me from a distance. Now one of the few things that are like kind of throwing me off right away is how thick this paint is here on the tabard. So right away that kind of throws me off. There's a few little areas on that tabard there that look really thick paint or something, and it just looks out of place. The tabard looks completely different from the rest of how the miniature is painted. Same thing up on the shoulder there. So other than that, everything looks really good. So for technical skill, we'll give that a 18. That thick paint there, and just how different that tabard looks than the rest of the paint is really kind of throwing me off. But other than that, really solid. So let's take a look at the Grimdark painting style. So overall, I really like the chipping on the green. I like the little bits of rust here and there. Now I would like to see some streaks coming out of those larger divots, but I really do enjoy the chipping. I like how it's done, and I like the green. I like the surface finish on the green, and it seems to have just a very slight texture. And now there are some crevice washing opportunities on the green that we missed, particularly around some of the details on top and around the head. Down here at the bottom, the legs and stuff, where we get some of the environmental effects from the base, that's well done. A lot of times people can and do overdo that a little bit, but that's pretty good right there. I like how that's done. It's well controlled. All the metals on it, I really like the metals on this. It gets a little bright in some places where it doesn't really make sense, like in between the legs there. I would probably keep the highlighting on the outside of the upper leg, like how you have it done, and just keep the insides pretty dingy there on the inside. But the metal works. I like that kind of grimy, dingy looking metal. Not a huge amount of contrast. I definitely enjoy that. And then now this brass or this bronze color that we have, I definitely am missing a surface finish variation here. So this is like the perfect opportunity for surface finish variation. Now, a lot of times we're looking in the Grimdark style, we're looking to create realistic finishes and just make things look, real. So for this, there's an opportunity right here. This is like a really good one. A good example of this is like how the green armor has a certain finish, and then the brass or bronze metal that we have here has the exact same finish. There's literally no difference in the finish. Now, I don't know if he went back over this with a unifying spray of some sort, some kind of varnish or something, but hopefully that's not the case. Don't do that to your miniatures, especially if you're weathering and doing the Grimdark style. You spend all this time weathering and doing all that, and then if you just hit it with a varnish, it kind of just defeats the whole purpose. But this is a good opportunity. So the luster, this bronze or brass should have way more of a luster to it. Even though it's heavily patinaed, it should still have a luster on it. So missed opportunity right there. Other than that, the only problem I have with the glow, the lighting and stuff on here for like the OSL effects, are the eyes are like really flat. The eyes, there could could be an opportunity to do a little bit of a glow on the inside of where the helmet and stuff is, and the eyes are just real flat looking. They don't have any sort of volume. There's no contrast, light to dark on them. It's just one solid color. And then the glow on on the flame here. Now, what I think is happening here is we've got too much contrast there. There's too much color variation going on. So if we take a look at the upper half of this flame, you see that it's got like this darker sooty black, and then there's like a warm dark reddish orange there, and then that glow we have on the right there in the middle, that little line of glow. That little line of glow right there is all you need. That's the highest amount of contrast that you need on this. Down here where it comes out of the hand is too bright. This pure yellow stuff kind of messes it up. You know, it's achieved perfectly here at the top or in the middle, and then when we get down here it gets too bright. So what I think you could have done to fix that is just go in with an airbrush, create like a soft glow with like a white, and then go over it with that orange, whatever orange you have there. And then it's just there's a little bit too much contrast in there. And then again, for the Grimdark style, the painting style, this tabard here looks totally different than the rest of the miniature. I don't know what's going on here. It's all like I don't know, it just looks odd to me. Looks out of place. So for the Grimdark painting style, I'm going to score this a 40. This is very well done. Very well done indeed. But just a couple minor issues, mainly with the tabard and just nitpicking some of the OSLs. But, you know, we're really close. This is really well done. Now, for the basing, I do like the base. The only issue I have with the base is the yellowing. I don't know if that's just the color of the roots or what. Or, you know, I'm not really sure what that is, but it looks like it was just kind of like not well thought out, where the roots are like painted. They're very bright and they pop out, and it kind of creates a bit of distraction. The horns look good. The grass work looks good. You know, maybe a little bit of rubble on here. It's just a slight amount would help it, you know, and kind of ditch that painting of the roots. I would rather just see those roots be not even touched, you know, as far as kind of trying to pop them out or anything. So basing, I'm going to give that a 23 on the basing. And then for the photography, looks great to me. Not too dark in my opinion. Everything I need to see is there. And yeah, it looks great. So I'm going to give the photography a 10. And that will bring the total to 265. So really good job. I definitely like this one. Let's take a look at the next. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out, I guess, Mizu's painting. That's how you pronounce that. His work here. So this is got a little diorama with it, which is definitely I'm a fan of. So let's give the scores for bloodasmedium on here. So he gave this a 15 for technical skills, 40 on the Grimdark. No, I'm sorry. Bloodasmedium gave a 19 on technical skills, a 45 on the Grimdark, a 20 on the basing, and 8 on the photography. Colonel scored this a 15 on technical, 40 on Grimdark, 20 on basing, and 8 on photography. And then let me take a look and let you know what I think. So technical skills, look pretty good to me. There's no real issues that I'm seeing. the diorama is a bit like the foreground competes a lot with the miniature. Is what I would say. The foreground of the diorama, so where the miniature standing, we have a large detail going all the way across the front, which is the barbed wire, and then a lot of skulls and stuff, and the real big skull there. I think you could just take that right off of there. Everything would be fine. Other than that, everything seems to be really good. I don't really see any issues other than that. So that's my only problem with the technical build. There's a little bit of competition going on with the miniature. I think maybe if you dialed the barbed wire stuff down a little bit, maybe just kind of insinuated the barbed wire, maybe put it on the corner or something and take out the rest of that big long bar there, and then definitely get rid of that big horned skull. Now the ground texture, there's a lot of shininess to it. It's like mud or something like that. So now I think the whole surface shouldn't have that uniform finish on there. I think there should be some parts of the mud that is wet and reflects light, and then I think there should be parts of it that doesn't. It being uniform all the way across is a slight distraction. So for technical painting skills, I'm going to give this a 19. So I really like everything that's going on. There's just a few elements that kind of compete with the backdrop and the rest of the miniature, but everything behind the miniature is perfect, like insane looking. I love it. Only thing I could say is like the little rocket launchers up at the top. I think we could go with a different detail there. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the rocket launchers being there. I like the form of them, but I know that it's a rocket launcher. Like if you had if you had those forms, that pattern going like all the way across behind the skulls too, if you kind of just modeled like to make it look like it was just like bulbs or something instead of like, I know that's a rocket launcher from some sort of model. But if you put a little bit of work into that to make it look like it was like bulbs or something different, that would take it up a notch there for me. So 19 technical. Let's look at the Grimdark painting. So immediately this head is like perfect. So that head's like perfectly done. Like I love how that just pops out. And another thing that immediately catches my eye is how these blades are done. So I was just talking about surface finish variation. So you can see the variation of finish on this blade here. So we have like a satin finish on some parts of this blade, and then we have this real kind of matte finish where the rust and stuff is. That's like perfectly executed. This is what I'm talking about when I say surface finish variation. I don't know why I struggle to say that, but that's what I'm talking about. That right there, where you see these blades and how it reflects light in some places and it doesn't, that's perfect. That looks absolutely 100% real. There's no way to tell that that's not real. That's perfectly done. Yeah, I mean, I think this is like super good. Like the skulls are super good. The white armor's good. The dark green armor. People struggle to make dark colors look grimdark, but this is well done here. You know, I can see the color green, I can see the texture, and I can see the rust, the texture of the rust. So I'm willing to bet he either did one or two things. He either pre-textured this and rusted over top of it, or he used dirty down. And and got the texture for the rust there. But that's, yeah, super well done. The white looks good on the armor. Different whites. There's so many different variations to these whites here. So these skulls have a touch of green to them, which is one of my personal favorite things. You know, guys, when I do skulls, I always do a green shade wash over like an off-white and then a streaking grind wash. And that's like that's what you're looking at right there. That's almost probably the same thing. And it just adds a good variation, because then we have this like plain white where like we can see it the most on the backpack, and you know, that's just like a pure kind of white, maybe a little bit of off-white with the rust streaks or something on it. And then we have that skin tone here, and look at the skin. Look at how the skin reflects light as opposed to any of the other things. Like the skin, the way that is reflecting light, the finish that skin has makes it look real. Okay, so there's not a ton, he didn't paint like a ton of detail on the skin. It just looks like a really pale flesh guy. And I mean, there is a little bit of coloration here and there on that, but the finish on the skin sells that to me as being like a real skin. And then it's very similar to the finish on the skulls. See how the skulls have a different finish there? Perfectly done. So perfectly done. That it's really a shame though that the front of this base kind of covers up, it distracts away from this. So like I said, a little bit too much going on at the front of the base. Now the backdrop is just really well done. I like everything that's going on. I like the variation of rust, how the rust on the backdrop is different than the rust on the actual figure, as well as the white. The white's different too. Yeah, just super well done. Yeah, I love this. I think you could kind of fix the front of the base there just a little bit. Just take that long pole out and kind of isolate that to one corner, and maybe add just a little bit of different variations of forms and textures onto the actual ground. It reads real flat, even though you got you know, it looks like mud and stuff like that, but you know, there's like, go look at like a muddy area. It's like some parts of it are shiny and wet, and then there'll be like other parts that have a different finish. You know, kind of break it up a little bit just so it's not, I don't know, just does a little bit of something to kind of distract, and then get rid of that skull with the horns. And then that's perfect. I'm going to give this is my first 45. I believe this is my first 45. Yeah, this will be my first 45 on the Grimdark painting style. I mean, all the surface variations, all the variations in color. I mean, the skin reads as a skin, the way that it reflects light. The skulls reflect light like they're skulls. They're not just matte. Not everything is just matte finished. You know, you see that a lot with Grimdark painting. People will just throw an enamel wash over everything, and they don't consider the finish. I mean, most of the time enamel washes are going to dry very matte, and so your whole piece ends up being matte. But when you have these surface variations, you need to address those, and this is like perfectly done on that. So bravo. I mean, the surface variations alone are worth a 45 to me. So very, very well done on that. Basing, we kind of talked about the basing. I really, really enjoy the basing. I'm going to give the basing a 24. There's just a couple slight things you need to change about it. Primarily the details in front of the miniature, that skull, and then I would address the mud. Like, I would put some variation to the mud. Photograph, I think it's photographed very well. I can see everything. When I zoom in here, I can see everything perfectly well. Now, you could have photo stacked this I know you got a lot going on. There's some things that are out of focus, which is fine. You know, you want your miniature to be in focus, which it is, but you know, your diorama is such a big part of it, and if you're having that judged, then you want to have it in focus so we can see all the little details of it. So I'm gonna give the photo a 9. I'm going to give the photo a 9. It's just like I would have photo stacked this so everything was in focus. And then, but yeah, this, I think so far, this one's my favorite so far. For sure. So let's add this up. Let's see what we got here. 272. I'll double check these two just to make sure. But I'll double check these before the end of the video. Just get back through and re-add them just to make sure I didn't make any errors on the calculator. But 272 from Mizu. Definitely like this one. Good job, man. Okay, so next up we have eccentricbear with his entry. And we'll go ahead and give the scores from bloodasmedium and Colonel. So bloodasmedium gave this a 20 on technical skills, a 45 on Grimdark, a 22 on basing, and a 10 on photography. Colonel gave this a 15 on technical, a 40 on Grimdark, 22 on basing, and a 10 on photography. So let me take a look here and I'll let you know what I think. So as far as technical skills go, right away I see a couple issues with the pose that I don't really care for. One being the way that he's looking as opposed to where his weapon is pointing. And then I think the movement is a little bit over exaggerated here. So he looks like he's running, and I don't really see Space Marines as being like something you would see running, sprinting very much. I think it's more like they have like the slow, purposeful gait, very menacing. And then his hand where he's holding the knife is a little strange to me, especially at this angle of the miniature. So in his left hand he's holding a knife, and it kind of it doesn't read at this angle. Other than that, for the technical bit, everything looks good. The basic painting principles look good. Just the pose is just a little strange. I think the stride is a little over exaggerated. I'd like to see this guy more just like a menacing walk. And then what is he looking at? You know, his gun's pointing directly at us, but he's kind of looking off to the side. So a little bit off there with a pose. So I'm gonna give this a 15 on technical. Just the pose is kind of strange to me. So for the Grimdark painting style, I like all the chipping. I think it's a little bit overdone, which you can really overdo chipping pretty easily. I do it all the time, but I think the chipping's a little bit overdone here. It's a little bit going a little bit crazy with it. There's some colorations on here that look pretty good, like the dust around at the feet coming up off the base. That's done pretty well. I see some of that kind of translated up onto the shoulders, I believe. That's what that is, some dust effects there. pretty good, but we don't really see it anywhere else on the miniature. Other than the chipping and stuff, the miniature looks pretty clean. Looks like there was a big focus on zenithal highlighting on this one, and then not a lot of, doesn't seem to be a lot of washing, not a lot of washes going on here. Now the eyes are particularly good. I like how the eyes look, and I think that's a bit of a glow around it. Now the glow, either that's a glow or that's more dust, because they're virtually the same color. And but yeah, this one's pretty good. This is a little bit too crazy on the chipping, really. But pretty standard looking guy here. Let me give this guy, I'm gonna give him a 40. A 40 on Grimdark painting. Nothing spectacular. Nothing spectacular. Every single surface, it has the exact same finish. Maybe the black on the backpack or the dark metal there has a little bit of a different finish, but everything's pretty much has the exact same finish. Some of the metal parts, like the studs and stuff, those look like those have a different finish, so you know that's good to see. But like the little straps on his chest, and it has the same finish as his armor. There's no, I mean, is that the same material? You wouldn't think that would be the same material. But it, you know, it has the exact same finish, so there's really no difference there. The only thing that has any bit of difference is the metal work, which makes sense, but I would like to see surface variation pushed in other areas of the model. So for basing, the basing is done well, but you know, I don't really see. I don't know. It's a little bit of a happy base. It's a pretty happy base to me. It looks, you know, there could be, I mean, throw a skull on there, at least something like that. So, you know, basing's pretty okay. Nothing spectacular there either. So we'll give the basing on this a 22. And then photography, it's very well photographed. I'm going to give it a 9. I just don't like the backdrop. I think the backdrop is, you know, it's fine. You know, I would prefer to see it on a black, white, or gray background, or a diorama behind it, or a painted background, or something like that. But yeah, so pretty well done. I think the best part of this is like the head. The head looks really good, like the eyes in particular. It's a little bit rough around the details around the mouth area. That looks slightly rough. Just doesn't look like there's a lot of any washes on here, any crevice washing. I like to kind of break up some of the forms. Okay. So let's total that up. So 270. 270. Alright, so let's take a look at the next one. This one is by Voice in the Grimdark. So let's go ahead and go through the scores from the other judges. So bloodasmedium gave this a 20 for technical skill, a 45 for Grimdark painting skill, 23 on basing, and a 10 for photography. Now, Colonel scored this a 15 for technical skill, a 40 on the Grimdark painting style, 23 on the basing, and a 10 on the photography. So let me just take a look here. Now right away, this is proper Grimdark right here, so this looks really good. Now, my only problem with this is that it has no surface variation. So everything on this miniature, even the base has the exact same surface finish as everything else. It's all the exact same surface finish. There's no variation between any of the armor. I mean, even the flesh has pretty much the same finish. I mean, it's a lot more brighter in contrast, so it does draw the attention, but there's nothing there to signify that this has any variation in material surface. So all the skulls, the chains, the holsters on the weapons, the straps on the legs, everything like that, exact same. So for technical skill, this is perfect. I'm going to give this a 20 for technical skill. I mean, everything about it, like you can see the little texture work on here, everything about this is perfectly done as far as building, kit bashing, and applying textures and just application of paint. Now, for the Grimdark style, the weathering is done very well. There could be some more contrast to the white, but other than that, I mean, I can see, you know, this is done over probably like a Ushabti bone or, you know, some sort of off-white, and then with like rust streaks and dark brown wash or something, and then he's got some decay deposits over the metal trim, and so it's all very well done. Now, the color variations between like the skulls and the armor are, I mean, it's pretty much identical. The color of the skull, like especially the one like right next to the armor panel, exact same color, different wash. So I mean, I would like to see some variation in those colors, especially in the skulls. Now we do up at the top, the skulls on the rack there, those have a slight bit of variation. Like each one is different from the other, just slightly. But the ones on the armor, on the ground, they're pretty much the exact same color as the armor. And but the lack of surface variation is killing me. Everything has the exact same finish. Hopefully this guy didn't finish his model with varnish. Barry, did you finish your model with varnish? I want to know. Let me know if you did that. So for the Grimdark painting skill, what I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna give this a 40. I mean, it's like it's proper Grimdark for sure, and it's very well done. But this this looks like it got sprayed with some kind of varnish over top of it. So there's like literally no variation. Like even the rust has the same finish, you know. Now for the basing, again the basing to me is just, it's all one texture. Everything on that base has the exact same texture, except for the skulls and the few details that are on the base. But everything else, like where he's standing and stuff, like is that just like a mound of sand or something? Shouldn't there be like rocks or something there that he's standing on, or some kind of different forms on the base? Why are we going with one solid texture? Now, I mean, I understand that people tend to rush through their basing and they don't put the same amount of work into their basing as they do their miniature. And and I've been trying to teach and get people to put the same level of effort into building their environments as they do their miniature. And this is something we talked about in the masterclass, and I'm pretty sure that Voice in the Grimdark took my masterclass, so he knows exactly how I feel about basing. So I'm gonna really get on him about this basing, because this basing, it's all the same texture. It's all the same texture, and I'm just not feeling that. I'm not feeling that. So I'm gonna give this basing 15 for the basing. Like, I'm pretty sure he took the master class. If this is who I'm thinking it is, I think this is Barry. So if this is Barry and he did this base after taking my master class, shame on you, Barry. As far as the but no, you know, is not overall, this is a great miniature, great build, great kit bash, great paint. You know, I'm just nitpicking Barry because, you know, he took my master class. So very well done, man. Looks great. I'm gonna give the photography a 10. Looks really good photography. Perfectly captured there. So let's add this up. Alright guys, so it looks like Voice in the Grimdark's totals came up to 271, which gives us our winner, Mizu painting, at 272. Now I had scored Mizu's Grimdark painting style at a 45, which is 5 points higher than pretty much anyone else. I think I gave 40K Blowout 43, but pretty much everyone else was sitting right around the 40 area. So I want to talk a little bit about why I was so excited about his entry, and it really has everything to do with those surface variations that he incorporated into his work. Now, a little bit ago, I talked about some of the things that I think that we can do to kind of push the style further and how to get to that next level of skill. And I think paying attention to these material surfaces and the variations that they have, the finish variations, the texture variations, and really pushing that realistic element into the style as hard as we can will really elevate us to the next level. So, you know, the Grimdark style is all about capturing what a character from a dark and dystopian and war-ravaged world, you know, it's all about capturing what that looks like. And there's a lot going on when we think about or consider what those characters have been through, all the battles they've been through, and all the things that they have on their armor, the different types of materials, the cloth, their hair, their skin, you know, the type of armor, strappings, you know, there's all kinds of little material surfaces, and all of these have slight variations. And if we can figure out how to implement that surface variation every time we sit down and paint a Grimdark miniature, I think we're really going to start to push the style a little bit further. You know, I've seen some other content creators and other miniature painters kind of jump on the bandwagon of the Grimdark style. It's you know, it's becoming very popular, and a lot of these guys are like either box art miniature painters or heavy metal miniature painters, and you know, they'll try to tell you that it's not about being realistic, or it's about a mood or an atmosphere. You know, it's not that. It's about realistic effects, and it's about surface variations and the type of products that we use. So these products like enamels and oils and things like Dirty Down and the certain types of varnishes we use, all that will help us achieve those realistic effects. They all dry differently. You know, you want to have things that have satin finishes and matte finishes, and, you know, very slight texture variations and high gloss finishes. You know, we want to be paying attention to those types of things, and that's really going to help us get to the next level. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone that participated in the challenge, and congratulations to Mizu. If I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I do want to direct you guys to check them out on Instagram. Some of them may have YouTubes. I put all their names on on the screen while I was giving my commentary. So make sure and check them out. Follow them on social media and stuff like that. Definitely check out Mizu's stuff. Take a close look at how he incorporates the surface variations and pay attention to that. And if you're new to the style and you're really starting to get into it, really take a close look at some of his work and some of the other people that are incorporating the surface variations, and just pay attention to that and try to learn how they're doing it. Now, we do have another challenge going this month, and it's the Grimdark Dark Mechanical Challenge. So check that out. Make sure and get on board with that. You enter the same exact way. Just throw a hashtag. It's going to be Grimdark Challenge DM. And we're just going to be kit bashing some dark mechanical figures and painting those up in the Grimdark style. So I don't expect there to be as many people participating in this one. It's a little bit more niched, but it should be fun to kind of build some dark mechanical stuff and see how crazy and grimdark we can get with that. All the rules for that are going to be up on the website grimdarkcompendium.com, and I've also I've posted it on Instagram, so check that out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one.